We live in this world where AI is just getting smarter and smarter, right? But it's got this weird fundamental flaw. And at the same time, our own brains, the ones we complain about for being so forgetful, they might actually be doing something brilliant. So that's what we're going to dive into, this wild paradox, this battle between remembering and forgetting. And we're going to figure out, is forgetting a bug or is it an amazing feature?
So, here's the big mystery we're tackling. How can our smartest AIs learn new things but only by completely overriding the old stuff? I mean, think about it. It's like trying to pour more water into a glass that's already full. The old water just spills right out. This isn't some small glitch, you guys. It's a massive problem in tech. And the answer? Well, it tells us something really deep about how memory works, period.
All right, first up, let's talk about the machines. We're diving into a problem that has had researchers just scratching their heads for decades. It's the reason why our super advanced digital brains are, well, surprisingly brittle.
The name for this is just perfect, catastrophic forgetting. And yeah, it's as bad as it sounds. We're not talking about a slow, gentle fade like when you forget someone's name. No, this is a sudden, total wipeout. See, when an AI learns something new, it rewires its own internal connections. But it does it so aggressively to learn the new task that it just completely demolishes the old connections. Poof, gone.
Okay, take a look at this. This chart just lays it all out. On the left, you see what happens when an AI learns one thing at a time. It learns task 1, that's the orange line, and its performance is great, it shoots right up. But then, the second it starts learning task 2, the blue line, look what happens to the orange line. It doesn't just dip a little, it plummets, right down to 0. That's catastrophic forgetting in action. But now check out the graph on the right. This is the kicker. If you teach the AI both tasks at the same time, it learns them both perfectly fine. So what does that tell us? The problem isn't how much the AI can hold, it's the way it learns, one thing after another.
So you might be asking, why should I care? Well, the real-world costs here are huge. For big companies, it means they have to retrain these giant AI models from the ground up every single time there's new data. We're talking massive amounts of time and money. It also makes it a nightmare to fix AI mistakes or biases. You try to teach it one little correction, and it forgets everything else it knew. And forget about having smart devices that can truly learn on the fly, right there in your pocket. This is a major roadblock.
Okay, so that's the machine side of things. Pretty brittle, right? Forgetful in all the wrong ways. But now, we're going to flip the script and look at the human brain, because a totally different story is playing out in there. What if I told you that for us, forgetting isn't a bug at all? What if it's actually one of our most important features?
I love this quote from neuroscientist Dr. Yi-Lian Chu. She says, "We often think of forgetting as a failure, but it's actually essential. If we remembered everything, our brains would be overwhelmed." And that's the big twist here, right? This idea that our brain's biggest flaw is actually one of its superpowers. Forgetting is what helps us focus, it keeps us adaptable, and it stops our minds from basically drowning in a sea of useless junk. And this is the part that blows my mind. Forgetting isn't passive. It's not like a photograph just fading in the sun. Our brains don't just let memories drift away. No, they actively work to get rid of them. It's a deliberate, chemical process. Your brain is literally spending energy to help you forget stuff. How wild is that?
So how do we know this? Well, scientists proved it with this really cool experiment using these tiny little worms called C. elegans. First, they trained the worms to connect a certain smell with getting food. Simple enough. Then, they just watched to see how long the worms remembered the connection. But here's the amazing part. They had another group of worms that were engineered so they couldn't make dopamine, the feel-good chemical in our brains. And those worms, they remembered for way longer. It turns out, without dopamine, they couldn't forget properly. It was actually dopamine that was helping them let go of the memory.
So this leaves us with a really clear contrast. You've got AI memory on one side. It's brittle. Learning something new just shatters the old. It's a dumb, passive overwriting. Then you have human memory. It's flexible. It's smart. Our brains actively curate our memories, like a museum director deciding what to put on display and what to put in storage. It's an intelligent memory management system.
And this idea that our forgetting is managed and, well, predictable, it's not actually new. Scientists started mapping this out more than 100 years ago. And what they found is super relevant for any of us trying to learn, well, anything. So let's go back in time to the 1880s. There's this German psychologist, Hermann Ebbinghaus, and he decides to run an experiment on the only subject he could trust completely, himself. To study pure memory without any meaning getting in the way, he memorized thousands and thousands of nonsense syllables, things like wid and zoff, total gibberish. and then he just painstakingly recorded how quickly he forgot them. What he came up with was the forgetting curve, and this idea was so on point that another study in 2015 got the exact same results.
So, what is the forgetting curve? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a graph that shows how fast we lose information when we don't try to hang on to it. It's a map of our brain's natural tendency to let things go.
And here it is in action. It's actually kind of scary. Right after you learn something new, boom, you've got 100% of it. But just one day later, you could be down to 50%. Half of it, gone. And a week later, maybe just 25% is left. It's this incredibly steep drop-off. This is basically your brain's default mode for any new info you don't bother to revisit.
This is why how you learn is so important. You know that all-nighter you pulled to cram for an exam? You are fighting a losing battle with this curve. The info goes in and it flows right back out. But there's a way to fight back. It's called spaced repetition. Basically, you just review the information at longer and longer intervals. By doing that, you're sending a signal to your brain saying, hey, this stuff is important, keep it. And that flattens the curve, helping you build a memory that actually lasts.
Okay, so this brings us to the really cool part. We've looked at the brittle AI brain and the flexible human brain. So the big question is, can we use what we know about our own biology to build better AIs and maybe even get a little better at using our own minds?
And the answer is a big yes. AI researchers are now looking directly at the human brain for inspiration. They're trying all sorts of things to get past catastrophic forgetting. Some techniques are designed to shield the most important connections in the AI's network so they don't get overwritten. Others are basically having the AI dream by replaying old data to itself, which is a lot like what our brains do when we sleep. The end goal for all of this is to teach the machine how to have a selective, flexible memory, to make it a little more human.
So what about us? How can we hack our own memories? Well, you can work with your brain's natural tendencies. First, use things like mnemonic devices to make the memory stronger from the start. Second, practice active recall. This is huge. Don't just reread your notes. That's passive. Close the book and force yourself to remember the information. And of course, like we just talked about, use spaced repetition. Seriously, it's one of the most powerful learning tools we have.
Now look, it's great to talk about forgetting as a feature, but we have to be careful. There's a big difference between normal, everyday memory slips and the kind of forgetting that could be a sign of something more serious. So it's really important to know, where is that line?
This chart lays out some really helpful examples. Look, everybody misplaces their keys. That's totally normal. But if you start finding your keys in the refrigerator on a regular basis, that might be a sign to talk to a doctor. Or, forgetting a word and it's on the tip of your tongue, that happens to all of us. But using a completely wrong word, like calling a table a stove and not realizing it, that's a bit different. These are the kinds of distinctions that are really good to be aware of.
And that brings us right back to where we started. For so long, the goal with AI has been to create a perfect memory, something that never forgets. But everything we've looked at today suggests that the real genius of the human brain might be in the exact opposite. So, as we build these machines that can remember everything, it kind of makes you stop and think about ourselves, doesn't it? What's the hidden wisdom, the real power in being able to just let things go?